Hello and welcome back to the Sega Saturn import friendly channel. This is where we aim to look at games that came out in different markets, predominantly the Japanese market, and see how friendly they are for people that want to import them into different countries, primarily in English speaking countries. In this episode what I'm going to be looking at is Deep Fear. Now, North Americans didn't get this game, and it only came out in Japan and PAL regions, so we have a PAL version of the game. And also we have our Japanese version of the game. Now, what you'll see is a little bit of gameplay footage of the game itself. There's lots of cutscenes. You would think that this game is not actually that friendly to an English audience if I'm importing the Japanese version, but in actual fact it's not too bad. I was quite pleasantly surprised. Now, initially I didn't really want to pay out for an English copy of the game because the PAL version is fetching mega money now, and I did have it back in the day, and I never really gave it the time of day back then. I picked up my copy probably back in 04, and I paid 30-40 quid for it back then. The prices skyrocketed in years to come. You know, I sold my copy off probably in 2017 and decided that I was just going to have a Japanese copy instead, which I got in a job lot of Saturn games, and I thought that would do me. Times changed really, and then I started collecting PAL Saturn games again, and I thought, well, it would be quite nice to have Deep Fear in my collection. So, taken to eBay, I looked to see whether I could find a copy of it, and it was amazing to see just how much this game had increased in value. A lot of copies of the game were now not in the UK, and were actually in different European countries like Spain, Portugal, Germany, France had a few copies as well, and there weren't very many in the UK really. At the time I was looking, I could only find completed listings of copies that had sold in previous times. There wasn't actually an example on eBay, save for one that someone wanted 350 quid for, which is a lot of money. That's massive money for a PAL UK copy of it. That's moving into the realms of what you'd expect to pay for Panzer Dragoon Saga. But what makes this game so valuable in the PAL territories is the fact that it is the last Saturn games come out for us. So we got it sort of in the late part of 1998. It's quite sketchy when we did get it, and you know, Wikipedia is saying it was June the 30th of 1998, I think. I have it in my head that it was actually November of 1998, but whatever. I mean, it's 1998. It was the last games come out. I'm pretty sure games were actually still coming out in June 1998, but maybe it was like a last rush of games before Sega were like, we're done, moving on to Dreamcast the following year. But so that explains why your PAL version is so much money. The Japanese version came out earlier in 1998, so again it's quite late for the console. Bear in mind that the console lasted for another 12 to 18 months after we lost it in this country. So you would think, being a survival horror game and being quite puzzle heavy, that you wouldn't be able to play the Japanese version, but as I sort of said earlier, you can, and it is actually pleasantly playable. So you have this version of the game, which the cover art's quite similar to the PAL version. You've got 2 discs in the box, as you do with the PAL version as well. You get sort of a nice booklet, which is kind of cool. It should come with a spine card as well if you're paying top whack for this, but my version doesn't. Again, it came in a job lot. This here is actually acted in English, so all the voices are English. The only thing that really lets this version down is the fact that it's quite text heavy with things that it wants you to do. For example, if a door's locked, or you could come back a little bit later, or something along those lines, or it's a side character who's talking to you, it is all in Japanese. But with the aid of a guide and the English speaking parts of the game anyway, you kind of get the general gist of where you've got to go. Quite early on in the game, I think you'll see in a video that's running sort of coherently with this at the minute, is that I was told that I had to go, I think, to like the bridge area or something like that to see what was going on. So that was all in English. The cutscene was as well in the beginning, so I was quite pleased with the fact that I could make a little bit of progress in the game. You can see that I do a bit of trial and error to see where I'm supposed to be going anyway, which is part of the course with these survival horror type games. It's quite comparative to Resident Evil, I find this. In fact, I would say graphically, I find it a little more impressive than the Resident Evil port on the Sega Saturn, which itself is actually quite impressive because Sega developed that one themselves, ported it over, and this one here is by Sega. It's actually really, really good looking game. It's a very good look as to what the Saturn could have done, bearing in mind that it was a machine that was quite grumpy with 3D. This actually shows late in the day what you could achieve with the Saturn given the right sort of coding tools and in the right hands, really. The Japanese version of this game is strongly recommended by myself because you can have this for about £35 to £40, and you can get pretty much the same gameplay experience that you would get from this version here, which is around about £150 to £180. My version of the PAL version doesn't have a booklet, and when I got this game, it actually came in one of EA's fatter 2-disc cases, and you would think, well, Christ, for a collectible game, I hope you didn't pay full whack for it. I didn't. I actually got this for £70, and that was this month, which is May 2019, on eBay, and I was really, really pleased with that. So this version here, I stuck on eBay. It's actually in a job lot with other Saturn games at the minute, which I'm covering on the show. That one obviously won't make anywhere near the money back that I paid for the PAL version. But I decided that my Japanese games, I'm going to chop in and sort of get the PAL versions of them. Something I said I wasn't going to do. I was going to go the other way and just get Japanese versions and stuff. But if you're on a budget, I would strongly recommend Deep Fear Japanese, because the language barrier isn't really that bad on it, and it's actually one of the more sort of surprisingly import-friendly games on the machine. And as you can see from the footage, it's the same gameplay experience, which is pretty darn cool. On eBay itself, you are always fighting against the fact that people from the United States, Saturn players, are going to want to have a slice of Deep Fear as well. But the collecting market for Saturn is starting to ease up a little bit now with the pseudo Saturn cards that are available, and also the emulation boards that go replace the optical drive itself. It's easing up the pressure a little bit. The people are reluctant now to pay such big money for Saturn games because there are alternative methods to play them now, whereas a few years back there wasn't. You didn't have the opportunity to be able to play a copied game so readily on your machine with the aid of just a cartridge, and or even just download them to an SD card and just put them in the machine via the VB card. So there's that. So that's quite an interesting footnote when it comes to collecting for the Saturn. One thing you need to look out for with the Japanese and UK versions, it hasn't started to affect them yet, but I have no doubt it probably will eventually, is look out for any little spots on the disc. If there's any fingerprints on the top, on the label side, just clean those off as soon as you can with something that's not abrasive or got any form of elements in it that are going to make the disc worse. But yeah, I've noticed with a lot of Saturn games recently that with fingerprints, if they've been on there for years, they start to eat away the foil layer of the disc, which is obviously where your data is. So keep your Saturn collection safe and make sure you check for this, because I did buy a copy of Enemy Zero on eBay recently, which had these spotting marks in it. Dare I say disc rot? I don't think it is actually primarily disc rot. I think it is decay from acidic fingerprints. So be very, very wary of that. So to summarise, £35 to £40 Japanese version, PAL version £150 to £180 depending on sort of what time of the month you buy it. And it gets a strong thumbs up from me for the Japanese version. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and take a look at some of the other episodes that I made as well, covering all manner of different games, and maybe I'll see you around.